The Chronicles of the Crisis, the series. The Osiris Myth. Trouble starts with T. Given the recent shift in power among the Big Four, Thoth, being as doom and gloom as he is, believes that trouble is just around the corner. Egypt is in a perfect time of balance and peace, but he knows that Set's very existence puts that all in danger. The moon god still curses himself to this day for letting such a monster survive childhood. He knows he must take action, but he doesn't really know where to start. He spent years trying to warn Ra of the growing danger, but the Griffin never believed him. Probably because, I don't know, he was trying to murder a baby?
What's wrong with you?
Sobek and Sekhmet aren't much help either. Sekhmet only really listens to Ra, so she won't let Thoth give her any sort of orders. And Sobek's a little too clueless to be of help to the moon god. The incorporeal gods are completely out of the question. Ma'at hasn't been corporeal since the dawn of time, and the others are in charge of the elements and maintaining nature. Nut and Geb might be available for some short period of time, as they have been corporeal for long periods in the past. Nut is the best candidate, as she's thankful for the help Thoth gave her in her time of need. But she's the Four's mother. She wouldn't lift a finger against one of her sons. The only option Thoth has left is to talk to the Four themselves. Well, 3, seeing as he wants nothing to do with Set. Osiris isn't going to be easy to convince, seeing as the Serpent has already wound his way into the Pharaoh's close company. Nephthys and Isis, thankfully, are more willing to speak with Thoth and accept his company. They studied under him for many years and learned the majority of their magical skills while under his instruction. They might think he's strange, but they're Thoth's best chance at defusing this alarming situation. He managed to set up a secret meeting with them outside of their working hours, and outside of the palace, at night, when Set's busy at work. Isis is already a little suspicious about what this meeting might entail, given the steps her former teacher is taking to make sure their meeting is discreet as possible. Nephthys doesn't really suspect anything, but the whole situation does make her uneasy. They agree to go out to the desert together after nightfall to meet up with their former mentor, and they both make sure to watch each other's backs. Thankfully, Thoth is already there at the meeting point when they arrive. He tries to ease into the conversation, mostly because being direct with people in the past has not ended well. Isis, however, tells him to cut the shit, as they're not out there in the middle of the night to discuss pleasantries. Well, here goes nothing. Thoth begins by telling them that they're here to talk about Set. This is immediately off-putting to the girls, seeing as Thoth has been raving about the dark deity since they were kids. Seeing their reaction, Thoth kinda starts to panic. He's close to letting this chance slip through his fingers, and if he does, nothing will be able to stop the disaster he foresaw. He reminds them of his visions. The girls had occasionally seen him in one of his prophetic episodes when they were learning under him. He tells them that he had an important vision about Set many years ago. He explains what he saw, and he thinks the Dark Deity has been plotting to kill Osiris for some time. He also says that the time he saw in the vision is very close, but admits that his efforts to bring the information to the other deities' attention has essentially alienated them all. The girls, of course, do not take this information lightly. Nephthys is immediately defensive. She just recently married Set, and she trusts him just as much as she does her sister. She's too soft-spoken and anxiety-riddled to yell at Thoth, but she does quietly point out that she believes Set wouldn't have it in him to just turn on his own flesh and blood. She suggests that the vision might not come true. Isis is equally incredulous, but she does humor the idea for a moment. After all, Set definitely seemed upset when Isis took over his duties. She agrees with Nephthys, saying the vision might not come true, and asks Thoth why he's so sure it will. Thoth admits that he does not know if every vision he sees will come to pass, but he explains that he first saw this omen when he helped Newt give birth to the four. It's been resurging ever since he first laid eyes on Set, so he's almost certain that it's going to happen. He says that Set is the first god in the history of the Pantheon, other than the great demon Apep, to be aligned with chaos rather than order, that his birth was enough to poison and seriously injure the Four's mother, and that the abilities he's displayed so far are disturbingly destructive. Nephthys is a little uncomfortable, and says that Set's alignment doesn't make him a bad person, that chaos is just as important to balance as order is. Isis agrees with her, but she's getting more uneasy as the conversation goes on. Things are starting to line up. Isis points to Set and Osiris' close relationship, and asks how or why Set would ever betray Osiris. Bad omens like these are a really big deal, but Isis still can't see her brother as a murderer, even if he is a bit of a blockhead. Why would he be so loyal to Osiris if he wanted him killed so badly? Thoth says that it must be jealousy, that Set must want to take the throne for himself. Isis admits that Set is the kind of person to want to do things his own way, but she still isn't fully convinced. Nephthys discredits Thoth's idea entirely, and is appalled that Isis is even entertaining the idea. She finally puts her foot down, and she decides she's going home. Isis watches Nephthys leave, and she starts to go after her. Thoth, however, stops her. He says not to blame Nephthys, as she loves Set too much to see what he's capable of. He assures Isis that she doesn't have to believe him. He just wants her to know what he saw. He asks her to tell Osiris for him as well. He knows the pharaoh won't really listen to him, but he might listen to his wife. Isis promises her mentor that she'll tell Osiris, but she makes Thoth swear he won't rave about his visions any longer. Leave Set alone, she says. You'll only stoke the fire more. The next morning, the sun barge docks on the horizon. Set hops off, his nightly journey complete. Ra wishes him well, and then leaves to rise the sun and go about his day. Set heads on back to he and Nephthys' place in an unusually quiet mood. He surprises his new wife, as he's normally pretty pumped after kicking demon ass all night. He says some things happened on the voyage that made him uneasy. Nephthys asks him what happened, but he says not to worry too much about it. He's just tired and needs to sleep on it. Nephthys can tell, though, that whatever it was really shook him up. Across the Duat, Osiris and Isis are also getting ready for the day. Isis keeps in mind her promise and pulls the pharaoh aside before they get entangled in any courtly business. She tries her best to gently break the news to Osiris, starting with the preface, "Thoth told me he had a vision." She tells him what Thoth said at their meeting the night prior, about the vision so many years ago and what the moon god thinks it meant. Osiris is appalled. The vision is a big deal, as Thoth's never been wrong before. But why would his brother suddenly turn on him? It doesn't add up. The young pharaoh stews in his thoughts all day. He tries to forget about it entirely, but... Set shows up later in the day, saying as he needed to sleep off the exhaustion from the nightly journey. He's in a much better mood than when Nephthys saw him this morning. Whatever was bugging him seems to have gone away. He greets Osiris warmly, but the exchange that follows is awkward. Osiris is suddenly aware of how threatening his brother is in everything he does. Before these seeds of paranoia found their way into his mind, that hadn't bothered him. In fact, he respected Set for his strength. But now he's starting to realize that Set is kind of scary. Osiris tries not to think about what would happen if they really did get in a fight. Set picks up on the fact his brother is uncomfortable, and he asks him if he's had a bad day. Osiris assures that he's okay, he just has some things to think about.